Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and pull back the curtain on how life insurance underwriting actually works. If you're shopping for life insurance, you might assume it's just a totally straightforward transaction, right? You punch in your age, your coverage amount, and boom, you get a price. But the reality? It's far more complex. Trying to navigate this system all alone can literally cost you tens of thousands of dollars or even cost you your ability to get covered at all. So today, we're focusing entirely on why utilizing an independent life insurance broker is absolutely the most critical decision you can make to protect both your family and your wallet. I mean, just think about $48,000. That's a massive number, and that is the potential extra premium a 45-year-old male might end up paying over a 20-year term just for dropping from a preferred plus rating to a standard rate class. It's a huge penalty, and it happens simply because of how one specific insurance carrier evaluates his health profile. When consumers shop directly, they usually have zero idea that their specific medical history could trigger this kind of massive rate jump with one company, while another company might have happily accepted them at that top preferred rate. So that brings us to a pretty crucial question. Are those fast, instant digital quotes you see online actually real? Well, not exactly. They assume a perfectly idealized version of your health, not your actual underwritten reality. That initial quote is really just a baseline estimate. It doesn't know anything about your actual medical history, the medications you take, your lab values, or even your driving record. It just casually assumes you're going to sail through the most rigorous health classification effortlessly, which honestly, for most of us, just isn't the case. Here's the thing. Finding the lowest quote on a website, super easy. But it honestly doesn't matter one bit if the carrier ultimately declines you or slaps you with a substandard table rating once they see your real medical history. Finding a low estimated number in a web browser is incredibly easy, but successfully navigating the detailed, highly customized risk assessment of a formal underwriter to actually secure that low rate, now that requires strategy, foresight, and real insider expertise. Let's step into what we like to call the underwriting maze. To show you how this actually plays out in real life, let's take an applicant with a 135/85 blood pressure reading. They have controlled hypertension. Carrier A is super conservative with those numbers, so they get hit with an expensive standard rate. But Carrier B, they are far more lenient with that exact same blood pressure, meaning the applicant gets a much cheaper preferred rate. You see, life insurance isn't priced or underwritten uniformly across the board. An independent broker knows exactly which carrier favors your unique numbers, guiding you directly to the best fit. It's absolutely fascinating because two completely highly rated carriers can look at the exact same applicant and come up with meaningfully different outcomes. And this strictness applies to everything from body mass index charts to prior cancer histories. Say you're 25 pounds over a certain weight threshold. One carrier penalizes you, another uses a more generous chart. Or if you have a history of localized cancer that's been in remission for 5 years, one company might outright decline you while another offers you a great rate. You simply cannot afford to guess which company is which. If you choose the wrong carrier, you fall straight into a premium gap. A $200 per month difference is entirely avoidable, which is why having an expert strategically match your profile to a carrier-specific guidelines is financially critical. An independent broker's core job is to close that gap between the rosy initial estimate you see online and the actual offer you receive, simply by selecting the carrier most likely to give you the best underwriting result. Now, let's talk about the biggest danger out there, avoiding the MIB minefield. The absolute biggest risk of applying for life insurance blindly is the MIB database, the Medical Information Bureau. It acts as an information clearinghouse for life insurance companies. Submitting a formal application to a carrier that isn't a good fit can trigger a decline, and that creates a permanent MIB record detailing that adverse outcome. So when you blindly apply to a company just because they had a cheap online quote and they decline you over a medical nuance, every subsequent carrier you apply to will see that red flag. Because of this shared database, you cannot afford to just guess and submit applications speculatively. Think of a declined application like a hidden landmine. It literally persists for years. You might think, oh, I'll just apply to 5 different companies and see who gives me the best deal. Actually, scratch that. Taking that scattershot approach is the absolute worst thing you can do. You're inadvertently laying landmines in your own path, making it vastly more difficult for even a skilled broker to get you approved later on. So how do you avoid these landmines? Let's look at your options across the distribution channels. If you go to a captive agent, someone who works exclusively for one big brand, they are structurally limited to that single company's product line. They literally can only sell you that brand's policies. If their specific underwriting department decides to charge you more because of a medication you take, that captive agent can't just pivot and check with a competitor. They are locked in, and by extension, so are you. An independent broker, on the other hand, they aren't tied down to anyone. They maintain full market access. And what about those online call centers? Well, they are built purely for volume. They optimize for speed and the lowest initial quote estimate, completely ignoring which carrier is actually the best underwriting fit for your specific medical history. Their algorithm just shoots your application over to whoever quoted the lowest estimated dollar amount. But, as we've learned, the lowest quote is totally meaningless if that specific carrier's underwriting guidelines are hostile to your health profile. You don't need a fast algorithm. You need precise, customized strategy. Which leads us to the ultimate solution, the exact strategy an independent broker uses. The real secret weapon here is that second step. An expert independent broker evaluates your full profile first, and then makes informal inquiries to test the waters. They actually reach out to underwriters at multiple carriers on an informal basis, describing your case generally to see how they would classify you. This secures tentative offers without ever creating an adverse MIB record. This strategic pre-screening of your health profile happens before any formal application is ever signed. By using this strategic sequencing, a broker acts as your personal insider navigator, mapping out the entire maze before you take a single formal step. They identify exactly which carrier will give you the most favorable outcome, and only then do they execute a targeted formal submission. It ensures you avoid unnecessary declines, completely protect your MIB record, and lock in the best possible premium for your unique situation. And that brings us to why Diversified Insurance Brokers is specifically positioned to do this for you. Over 100, that massive number represents the scale of access Diversified Insurance Brokers brings to the table. They are shopping over 100 highly rated insurance carriers simultaneously on your behalf. Because they have active contracts with over 100 carriers, they have the ultimate flexibility to find the exact right fit for your health profile, your age, and your goals. They aren't trying to squeeze a square peg into a round hole. They simply go out and find the square hole. They are a family-owned, independent agency that's been doing this since 1980, refining their ability to align complex health profiles across more than 1,000 different products. And what's really important here is that their advice is compensation neutral. It doesn't matter to them which of those 100-plus carriers you go with. Their only incentive, their only goal, is finding the absolute best outcome for your specific situation. Their whole philosophy is that independence means they don't work for one insurance company. They work for you. Working with Jason Stoltz and the team at Diversified means you get an expert who manages your coverage over the long haul. It's not just a one-time transaction. As your life changes, whether you get married, have kids, start a business, or experience health changes, your broker is there to manage complex term conversion options and ensure your policies remain perfectly calibrated to your life. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question. Will you leave your family's financial security up to a blind, algorithmic quote or a captive agent's limited portfolio? Or will you let an expert, independent broker unlock the full market for you and secure the exact right coverage? Your family's future is just way too important to leave to chance. Reach out to an expert at Diversified Insurance Brokers, leverage their independence, and make sure your coverage is designed to win. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.